Hello there, very good evening. This is the weekend edition of Primetime News on TV1. For the news first, where the people come first, I'm Martin Satyanesan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for this evening.
Muslim devotees in Sri Lanka celebrate the festival of Ramadan. New Year celebration Vasanta Siriya 2023 launched by the President at Shangri-La Green. Samurdhi Department organizes New Year celebrations across the country. Trade unions split on spending 81.6 million rupees for organizing the New Year celebrations.
මේ ලාභ සඳහා වෙන් කරපු මුදල් බැංකුවේ තියෙන ලාභ වලින්
රජයේ ප්‍රතිපත්තිය පසුගිය දවසේ ඉදිරිපත් කරා මිනිස්සුන්ට අත්‍යවශ්‍ය වියදම් පවණක් කරන්න කියන එක. මුදල් නැමැතිගෙන් අහනවා මේ සමෘද්ධි දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ අධ්‍යක්ෂ ජනරාල්වරයාට වළංගු නැද්ද කියන එක.
Civil suit against the Express Pearl that caused massive damage to the sea of Sri Lanka to be heard overseas. GL Peiris removed from the position of chairman of SLPP. GL Peiris prepares to file legal action. 5 murdered at a house in the Delft Island.
Those stories in detail. Muslim devotees across the island celebrated the festival of Eid al-Fitr or Ramadan today.
The festival of Ramadan or Eid, as it is more commonly known, is one of the biggest celebrations in the Muslim calendar. Eid takes place at the end of Ramadan, a month of prayer and fasting. The name Eid ul-Fitr translates as the festival of the breaking of the fast. Like the beginning of Ramadan, Eid begins with the first sighting of the new moon. Observing the fast during Ramadan is considered one of the 5 pillars of Islam. These are 5 principles which Muslims believe are compulsory acts ordered by God. Fasting is considered to be an act of worship which enables Muslims to feel closer to God and strengthen their spiritual health and self-discipline. Ramadan is a period of devotion, fasting, charity, giving and self-accountability. It is also considered a month of forgiving.
Muslims across the world celebrated Ramadan today in style while participating in religious observances organized across the island. Religious observances and prayers were conducted at the Colombo Grand Mosque today. Meanwhile, religious observances were conducted in line with Ramadan at the head office of the Maiman Society in Kolpiti. Religious observances were conducted at the Jummah Mosque in Hatton this morning. Meanwhile, Muslim devotees engaged in prayers and celebrations for Ramadan near the Kathankudi beach in Batticaloa. Meanwhile, Muslim devotees engaged in prayers and religious observances in the Eravur area in Batticaloa as well. Religious observances were conducted at the Davatagaha Mosque in line with the Ramadan celebrations.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe extended his wishes to the Muslim community in the island, noting, quote, "This year's Ramadan festival is being celebrated by the devotees of Islam in a revived environment in the country. Undoubtedly, this has brought contentment to the nation in its entirety." End quote. The message by the President went on to note, quote, "I am confident that this year's Ramadan celebration will serve to unify all Sri Lankans irrespective of race and religion in working towards our common goal of developing a robust and equitable society which upholds the values of freedom and human dignity." End quote. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena in his Ramadan message said, I quote, "From time immemorial, during Ramadan, the Muslim community perform their religious rituals and prayers and help others by giving exemplary meaning to the cultural and religious diversity in the country." End quote. The Prime Minister went on to express his gratitude for the active contribution of the Sri Lankan Muslim community to the country's administration process, business sector and various other sectors including education, sports and culture. Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa, wishing Muslims across the island for Ramadan, said, If people can put away their differences and work together, the world would be a much better place. He further added, Ramadan is a festival that bridges the gaps between the unfortunate and the affluent, extending the arms of brotherhood across to all despite their differences.
The Sinhala and Tamil New Year Festival Wasat Syria 2023 was held at Shangri-La Green premises today. It was presided over President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
The celebration was organized under the directives and leadership of Senior Advisor to the President on National Security and President's Chief of Staff Sagala Ratnayaka and Secretary to the President Saman Ekanayaka. Several games were organized under the State Sector, Open Division and Guest Section. Diplomats from several countries and their family members also participated in the celebration.
Thank you. Okay. Any more to carry on?
Many New Year celebrations organized by the Samurdhi department were held across the country today. Samurdhi trade unions point out that an amount of 81.6 million rupees that should go to Samurdhi beneficiaries is being spent on the New Year festivals.
The Department of Samurdhi Development had organized New Year celebrations in several locations across Sri Lanka. One such New Year festival was held in Dampe Paduka today. General Secretary of the All Ceylon Samurdhi Development and Agricultural Research Officers Association, Member of Parliament Jagat Kumara Sumitra Rachi and several others attended the event. Views were expressed regarding New Year celebrations being held across the country at a cost of 81.6 million rupees.
These have been organized using funds from the profit made by the Samurdhi banks. This has been done in previous years as well. Although it amounts to such a large amount collectively, it is a limited amount for each division. That small amount of money is not the government's tax money or the people's money, but the profits earned from the banks. So what should the funds be used if not for cultural festivals?
Samurdhi Trade Union Collective convened a press conference today and said that each bank had spent a sum of 75,000 rupees for the New Year festivals.
Director of Samurdhi is working to organize a carnival by spending 75,000 rupees from each bank. The government's policy had been presented recently to reduce the unnecessary expenses of the government and to spend only the necessary expenses for the people. Then we asked the government, the finance minister, if the financial policy for the ministries, the secretaries of the ministries and the heads of the ministries does not apply for the director of the Samurdhi department. There are 20 teams, 20 officers who have to be paid for overtime, and a large amount is spent for fuel to send them to different parts of the country. They are wasting the government's money.
This was the response of Bandula Tilakasiri, Director General of Samurdhi Development Department.
A festive program is being held from the 22nd to the 30th of this month, sponsored by the Samurdhi Bank of the area with the support and sponsorship also being given from civil organizations and various other donors. This program is being conducted for the community. There is no need to allocate funds that the department receives from the government for this purpose.
සමෘද්ධි සංවර්ධන දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව දීර්ඝ කාලයක් තිස්සේම
The Samurdhi Development Department was transformed into an institution that advocates the political interests for a long time now. Samurdhi employees have procedure for promotions or recruitment. Travelling expenses allowance to be paid in 2023 have not been given to the existing employees. Many employee rights have not been fulfilled. The State Minister and the trade unions affiliated with the government can wait and watch as we are coming with all Samurdhi employees to meet you at the Batrabulla branch of the Samurdhi Development Department. The Gammadda movement has constructed many projects for the people based on data we obtained through surveys conducted for over a decade regarding the real issues faced by the people of Sri Lanka. A significant amount of these projects are clean drinking water projects. This is because the main issue faced by the people in many parts of our country is a lack of clean drinking water. Even today, Gammadda made the dreams of the people of Madukare Mana a reality.
335 families are living in the Madukare village located in the Nanattan Divisional Secretariat in the Mana district. None of them have access to clean drinking water. These people have to travel 4 to 5 kilometers and buy water as the salinity of the groundwater is very high in this area. The number of kidney patients in the area had also increased, and Gammadda identified this issue and took prompt action to address it. Harsha Diseram, living in Colombo too, and Themia Dimel, living in the UK, joined hands with Gammadda to fund this project. This water purification project, built with the technical support of the Sri Lanka Navy, will quench the thirst of the people of the Madukare village and also residents of nearby villages. Gammadda representative K. Mayuran, Gammadda national organizer Kenneth Virakkodi, Assistant Divisional Secretary of Mana Dushya Shivadaran, Commanding Officer of the Pussadeva Sri Lanka Navy Camp Commander Nihal Jayasekara, Sri Lanka Navy Lieutenant Commander Palitha Herath, and Officer in charge of the Nanattan Police Station WDKC Navaratna attended the opening ceremony of the project as invitees.
They're going on a journey with our village after identifying the needs of the villagers. They looked into the main issues we face 2 or 3 years ago. After that, we asked for clean drinking water, and today it became a reality.
We'll continue with more local stories after this short commercial break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. The most serious devastation caused to the Sea of Sri Lanka was undoubtedly the Express Pearl disaster that occurred on the 20th of March 2021. 2 years since this devastation, officials in Sri Lanka have not been able to provide a proper estimate of the damage caused by this disaster. No action has been taken to institute actions to recover the damages from the owners and insurers of the Express Pearl ship. The question is, will Sri Lanka be able to recover any sort of damages for this disaster, or will this entire incident be swept under the carpet?
Do you remember? It's been almost 2 years since the Express Pearl ship went up in flames and sunk in the Sea of Sri Lanka. The ship was carrying 81 containers of dangerous cargo and 25 tons of nitric acid when it went up in flames and sank in the Sea of Sri Lanka, causing untold damages that will affect us and the Sea of Sri Lanka for generations to come. The Express Pearl ship had been refused entry to several harbours as there was a leak in the chemical substances on board the ship. However, officials in Sri Lanka granted permission to the Express Pearl ship to enter the outer harbour of the Colombo port, despite the crew of the ship being unable to contain the leak in dangerous chemical substances and without paying heed to the damage that this decision could cause to the Sea of Sri Lanka. The Express Pearl continued to burn for several days and devastated the Sea of Sri Lanka. Do you remember? When the ship was burning and spewing dangerous chemicals into our sea, those chemicals washed up on our shores. Plastic nurdles and other debris from the ship washed up on our shores. The dangerous chemicals from the ship killed hundreds of turtles, whales and dolphins, and their carcasses were scattered across the shores of Sri Lanka. Do you remember when environmentalists across the world and foreign media branded this disaster as the world's single worst incident of plastic marine pollution? News First highlighted the need for an expeditious investigation to determine the damage caused to the country and the Sea of Sri Lanka. News First also highlighted the need to gather scientific evidence and institute the necessary legal action to recover damages legally due to the country. News First highlighted the complex procedure in securing damages from the insurers for such a massive-scale environmental destruction and the need to act promptly. News First dedicated hundreds of hours of airtime to initiate meaningful discussions on the matter through programs like Mawatha. Despite the risks posed at the time, News First journalists travelled to the vicinity of the ship to report accurate and up-to-date information on the incident. But what happened? Did the officials initiate the necessary steps to recover damages? Responsible state institutions tasked with initiating the process for the recovery of damages followed a lackadaisical approach. According to the current estimates available, the damage caused to Sri Lanka by the Express Pearl disaster is $6.4 billion. However, Sri Lanka has only received a meager $10 million as compensation. If such an incident had occurred in the sea of any other country in the world, they would have already secured damages in the billions to account for the adverse effects caused to the environment. Let's look at some similar international incidents and how the countries affected by them responded. Do you remember? The Deepwater Horizon oil spill began on the 20th of April 2010 off the coast of the United States in the Gulf of Mexico on a British Petroleum-operated oil rig. The United States filed criminal charges against British Petroleum and secured damages of $4 billion. Do you remember the recent blockage of the Suez Canal? Egypt has already ordered the owner of the ship responsible for the blockage to pay a sum of $550 million as damages. These are just a few examples. What is happening in Sri Lanka? The extremely sensitive ecosystem in the Sea of Sri Lanka is now facing a serious risk of losing its value as a result of the Express Pearl disaster. Corals, marine life including turtles, dolphins and whales were killed in the hundreds and their carcasses were seen scattered across the beaches of Sri Lanka. In addition, the wreckage of the Express Pearl is like a ticking time bomb in the Sea of Sri Lanka. It is a time bomb because the wreckage still has a large stock of bunker oil. The rapid erosion of the hull of the ill-fated Express Pearl could lead to a leakage of these stocks of bunker oil into the Sea of Sri Lanka. Have authorities taken these factors into consideration in calculating the damages due to Sri Lanka? Sri Lankan authorities are determined to accept any conditions imposed from the IMF to secure a bailout of $2.9 billion. But if proper steps were taken at the right time, the country would not have had to suffer a forex crisis. Do you remember? Recently, the Minister of Justice made a bombshell revelation when he said that someone had accepted a bribe of $250 million to cripple the procedure to secure damages that are due to Sri Lanka from the Express Pearl and their insurers. What is the latest situation? The 20th of May 2023 marks 2 years since the Express Pearl disaster. It is exactly 730 days or 17,520 hours since this disaster. Where is the civil suit to claim damages for the destruction going to be filed? Even 17,000 hours after the incident, there is still no decision. Today, the Minister of Justice said that cabinet approval has been received to file the civil suit overseas. The Express Pearl ship sailed under the Singaporean flag. The government is planning on suing the respondents in Singapore. Experts point out that if the Attorney General is filing action against any party in Sri Lanka, such action is not limited by a prescriptive period. However, if action is to be filed in Singapore, it must be done within a period of 2 years. Experts also stress that filing action in Singapore is extremely costly and could be detrimental to Sri Lanka. A massive amount of money will have to be spent even to cover costs like travelling, lodging and seeking legal counsel and representation. The authorities only have 700 hours left to come to a final decision on the steps that should be taken. What will be done now? Shouldn't action be taken at least in this 11th hour to secure compensation for the damages caused by this disaster to the Sea of Sri Lanka, the country as a whole and her people? The judicial system of Sri Lanka is very competent and well equipped to resolve any legal dispute. But when will officials understand that filing action in Sri Lanka is both cost-effective and overall advantageous to Sri Lanka?
News First with the people.
400 families will receive the Aswasuma welfare benefits from the 1st of July 2023.
The Ministry of Finance, Economic Stabilization and National Policies issued an extraordinary gazette stating that the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Payment Scheme for low-income families will come into effect from the 1st of July. Accordingly, 400,000 families will receive the monthly welfare allowance under the transitional category from the 1st of July till the 31st of December 2023.
Senior Professor Venerable Utturavala Dhammarathana has been appointed as the new chairman of Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna at the general meeting of the SLPP held today.
The annual general meeting of the SLPP for the year 2023 was held this morning and was chaired by former President Mahinda Rajapaksa at the party headquarters. Chairman of the SLPP, Professor G.L. Piris, did not participate at the general meeting.
අපි මහසභාවට ඇසීම පැවැත්වුවාද තාම සාර්ථක සභාවක් නේද
සභාපති කෙනෙක් පත් කරාද අද
හිටපු අධ්‍යයමම පත් කරා
අද විශේෂ තීන්දුව මොනවද ඔබතුමාලා ගත්ත තව
ඒක තමයි නිලධාරි මේ ලේකම්තුමා ඉන්නෝනේ එයාගෙන් ආන හිටපු සභාපතිතුමාට එළගෙනද ආවේ නැද්ද නෑ හිටපු කෙනා කියන්නේ හිටියේ ජීඑල් නේ
අයින් කරාද
ඔය ඉතින් ඉබේම අයින් වෙනෝනේ
කොහොමද දේශපාලන තත්ත්වය ඔබතුමාලාගේ ඉදිරි ගමන කොහොමද
තාම ඕනෑම මැතිවරණයකට ඕනෑම වෙලාවක ලෑස්ති.
අද අපි පක්ෂයේ මහසභා රැස්වීම පැවැත්වුවා.
We held the annual general meeting today. We informed the former chairman of this, but he did not participate. Accordingly, the former officials were appointed. However, instead of former chairman Professor G.L. Piris, Senior Professor Venerable Utturavala Dhammarathana was appointed as the chairman. We took a previously established party and renamed it as the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. Venerable Utturavala Dhammarathana was the founding chairman of this previous party, which was named the Sri Lanka Jatika Peramuna. We reappointed him as the chairman of the party at this meeting. Professor G.L. Piris was appointed as chairman initially after the Venerable Thera stepped down. Therefore, a request was made today to reappoint Venerable Utturavala Thera as the chairman, since Professor G.L. Piris had been neglecting his duties as the chairman. Accordingly, we reappointed him for the foreseeable future. We will make decisions in the future under a new constitution for the party.
ස්ථාපකයටතේ අවශ්‍ය ගන්න ඕන තීන්දුව తీරන ගන්නවා.
පක්ෂයෙන් ඉවත් වෙලා ගියපු කණ්ඩායම නිරපාහරින කවදද?
We don't act out of panic. There is a saying that although the patient panics, the doctor remains calm. We don't panic like that. We will do what's necessary when the time is right. We have done many things that people said we couldn't accomplish. In the future, we will do what needs to be done in a perfectly legal manner.
ඊටත් අපි අවශ්‍ය අවස්ථාවේදී නිසියාකාරයෙන් නීත්‍යානුකූලව ඒ කටයුතු
ජීඑල් පිරිස් මහතා පිළිගනිද ඔබතුමාලාගේ තීන්දුව?
That doesn't matter to us. We officially invited him to attend the general meeting. He didn't attend. Another name was proposed instead of his. A new chairman was appointed in his stead. This has nothing to do with his party membership or any disciplinary action.
අලුත් සභාපතිවරයෙක් පත් වුණා. මෙතන වික්ෂ සමාජිකත්වයේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් හෝ විනය ක්‍රියාමාර්ග සම්බන්ධයෙන් කිසිදු කටයුත්තක් සිදු කරේ නැහැ.
බැසිල් මහත්තයා අයියා ආවේ නැත්තේ. ජාතික සංවිධායකතුමා.
එතුමා අවශ්‍ය
He is where he needs to be and is fulfilling his duties for the party. He is the strength of the party.
මේ පක්ෂයේ තියෙන අපිට තියෙන ශක්තිය.
Issuing a statement, former chairman of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Professor G.L. Piris, said the meeting of the SLPP General Assembly held this morning was illegal. He said that all decisions reached at the meeting will be null and void. Professor G.L. Piris added that suitable legal action will be taken in future in order to challenge the decisions that were taken at the meeting.
The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Kaduwela Bala Mandala meeting was held today. The meeting was attended by parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa and other public representatives. We believe that we didn't fail. We were made to fail. At the Aragale, they spoke about money that was sent to Uganda. Even today, I state with responsibility and even asked the president to bring back the money that they say we've stashed overseas so that it can be used to develop the country. If he needs an affidavit, I can give an affidavit as well.
A special police team has been deployed to investigate the incident in which 5 people were stabbed to death at a house in Delft Island, Jaffna.
Crime Watch.
The police said the 5 people are suspected to have been murdered Between last night and the early hours of this morning, police said that another woman who sustained injuries in the incident was admitted to the Jaffna Teaching Hospital. The deceased included 2 males and 3 females who were all relatives. Police said that one of the women had arrived in Sri Lanka from the United Kingdom. The police are yet to determine the reason for the murders or uncover details regarding the suspects. The bodies of the deceased have been handed over to the Jaffna Teaching Hospital after the magisterial inquest was conducted.
European Union and Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations launched a €4 million initiative to improve efficiency and sustainability of paddy farming in Sri Lanka.
The €4 million, which is approximately 1.5 billion rupees funded by the EU, was initiated at an event held at the Technology Park in Hambantota under the auspices of Minister of Agriculture Mahinda Amaravira, European Union Ambassador to Sri Lanka, His Excellency Dennis Chaibi, and FAO representative in Sri Lanka, Vimlendra Sharan. Implemented by FAO with the support of the Minister of Agriculture and the Mahawali Authority, the program targets 71,000 smallholder paddy farmers and 1,200 paddy seed farmers across 7 districts, including Polonnaruwa, Badulla, Ampara, Matale, Putlam, Kurunegala and Hambantota districts, who were severely impacted by the recent economic crisis. The recipient farmers will receive material and technical support to transfer from traditional cultivation methods into climate-smart, modern farming techniques. The eligible paddy farmers cultivating up to 0.5 hectares of land will receive 50 kilograms of urea fertilizer and necessary tools to enhance efficiency of fertilizer use.
The LOLC Divisavya program, striving to uplift the lives of the future generations of Sri Lanka, continued today. Books and other stationery items were distributed among students in the Vavuniya district today.
The Divisavya program is focused on providing books and stationery items to school students from the most economically challenged parts of Sri Lanka. This praiseworthy initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. The program will support hundreds of thousands of children from around 3,000 schools across Sri Lanka. Today's program took place in the Vavuniya South Education Zone of the Vavuniya district. School books and stationery items were distributed among students from Ayankaravur, Kudakachakodiya, Kalukunnam Maduwa and Kattar Sinnakulam schools of the Vavuniya South Education Zone. The Divisavya team also distributed school books and stationery items among the students of Periyathampane, Kiristokulam, Pavatkulam Kalemakal and Anbupuram Namagal schools of the Vavuniya South Education Zone. School books and equipment were also distributed to students of 18 schools belonging to the Vavuniya South Zonal Education Office. The LOLC Divisavya program will continue to touch the lives of children living in rural Sri Lanka in the days to come.
A UN agency in a report said record levels of greenhouse gases have caused planetary scale changes on land, in the ocean and in the atmosphere. The report also showed the past 8 years were the hottest ever recorded on Earth.
Meteorological Organization said on Friday global sea levels are rising at more than double the pace they did in the first decade of measurements from 1993 to 2002 and touched a new record high last year. Extreme glacier melt and record ocean heat levels, which cause water to expand, contributed to an average rise in sea levels of 4.622 millimeters a year from 2013 to 2022. The report said, quote, melting of glaciers and sea level rise, which again reached record levels in 2022, will continue to up to thousands of years. Antarctic sea ice fell to its lowest extent on record, and the melting of some European glaciers was literally off the charts. Data from NASA's GRACE and GRACE follow-on satellites show that the land ice sheets in Greenland have been losing mass since 2002. Killer floods, droughts and heat waves occurred around the world, costing many billions of dollars. The amount of heat trapping carbon dioxide and methane in the air reached the highest amounts recorded in modern times.
Ram Kumar, the son of late legendary actor Sivaji Ganeshan, arrived in Sri Lanka today, along with several South Indian artists.
Ram Kumar, the son of late Shivaji Ganeshan, a legendary South Indian film star, arrived at the Palali airport from Chennai, India, along with a group of South Indian artists. They will participate at the launch of an autobiography based on Shivaji Ganeshan's life, which will be held tomorrow at the University of Jaffna.
In international news, Former Peruvian President Alejandro Delgado has surrendered himself to U.S. authorities in order to be extradited to Lima.
Toledo, aged 77, is accused of taking $20 million in bribes from a Brazilian construction company while in office between 2001 and 2006. He fled Peru to live in the US several years ago but was arrested by US authorities on Peru's request. He has denied soliciting or receiving bribes. Peruvian authorities alleged that Toledo received millions of dollars from the Brazilian construction company in return for awarding public works contract. They provided the US with an extradition request in May 2018. Prosecutors are seeking a 20-year prison sentence. Toledo was first arrested in California in 2019. He was then granted bail in 2020 and ordered to live under house arrest with an electronic ankle monitor. This week, the former president's lawyers unsuccessfully filed for an emergency stay to block his extradition. They argued his life was at risk if he returned to Peru. Toledo said the allegations against him were politically motivated. However, a U.S. District Court judge in the Northern District of California previously found that there was enough evidence to, quote, establish probable cause to believe that Toledo committed the collusion and money laundering, unquote.
It's time for Big Match Fever.
The 104th Hill Country Battle of the Blues between Trinity College and St. Anthony's College ended in a first innings win for Trinity College today. The St. Anthony's team, who batted first in the match held at the St. Anthony's College Stadium, managed to score only 110 runs with all wickets down for their first innings. The Trinity College team, who played their first innings, scored 221 runs before being bowled out. Rahul Amarasinghe scored 66 runs and Manula Kularatne scored 44 runs. Accordingly, when the Antonians returned for play, they scored 38 runs for the loss of 3 before the match was suspended due to rain. The 73rd Battle of the Goals annual big match between St. Sebastian's and Prince of Wales College Moratuwa ended in a draw today. In the match held at the Soisa Stadium in Moratuwa, the Sebastian team, who batted first, ended the innings at the end of 60 overs after accumulating 219 runs for the loss of 7 wickets. Sanesh Fernando scored 114 runs. The Wales players who played their first innings were all out for 208 runs. Tharundu Amarasinghe scored 73 runs and Umesh Mendis scored 65 runs. Accordingly, the Sebastian team, who entered the field to play their second innings, scored 207 runs for the loss of 2 wickets. Vimath Dansara scored 101 runs.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Primetime News on TV Bond. For details of these stories and much more, simply log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk. For the News First, where the people come first. I'm Martin Satyanis, and you take care and good night.